Hello friends, we are days away from a Switch 2 reveal at this point, and I am losing my brain. So to take my mind off it and think of anything else right now, I want to take a look at something I missed from a couple of weeks back. Steam Deck. You know, you love it, we have it, we're playing with it, maybe you're not. But I love my Steam Deck, and it really does seem like Steam is making this push into the hardware space, not just portably, not just VR-ly, but also with an actual home console. Yeah, Valve is here to stay. I don't think we've seen it happen this way around before, where a company has entered via the software side of having a app where you buy and play games from and then making the consoles. I'm literally thinking of this right now, but I think this is the first time it's happened this way around. We currently see Xbox going in the other direction, where they started as a hardware company and now they're moving more towards a digital and app service company. But there's a lot to talk about here, as well as looking or hearing about this new home console, so let's react. I'm very excited for this because I think all kinds of competition in this space is healthy. And since the competition that Xbox has been giving PlayStation over the years is starting to die out, we don't want PlayStation to solely have the leading space when it comes to a powerful at-home console. We don't want them having the monopoly on that, I don't think. I think it's good to have somebody to challenge that and to push PlayStation and the challenger to further heights. We get, the competition is healthy, and I think as consumers we get more out of it. And I would love to see Valve entering this space and being able to compete in that way. They're also competing with Switch when it comes to the handheld space and forcing Nintendo's hand, hopefully, into being able to deliver more. Because if the Switch 2 can't deliver where the Steam Deck can, Switch is instantly going to be off on the bad foot. And I think it's good to have that pressure from Steam for Nintendo to say, hey, okay, maybe we do need to look at the internals of this thing and get the most out of it. And I think it's good to put Nintendo in that position, to put them into a corner and force them. As the consumer, I think that's good. All right, so Valve is full of great ideas, and here might be another one. VR enthusiast and XR project manager Brad Lynch has found some evidence of a device codenamed Fremont being a new Steam OS console. Moreover, he says the Quanta computer the Steam Deck manufacturer is giving feedback on it. So here we have Brad Lynch tweeting, F7 is okay, I can't highlight this without clicking on the whole article, so we're not highlighting. Okay, now I can't de-highlight it. F7 is the identifier used for the firmware powering each Steam Deck. F7 Aerith, I actually didn't know they used Aerith, that's pretty cool, became the Jupiter LCD model, Galileo became the OLED model, and then F7 Fremont. All references to Fremont ensure checks for full-size HDMI Type A port that you'd see on a TV-focused console and other desktop computers that don't have a dedicated GPU with its own HDMI ports. The device is said to be a living room console with HDMI, the new Steam controller, and Steam Link for streaming to the Steam Deck, and Deckard, Valve's rumored VR headset. So this is actually really cool. Like, as I said, a whole lineup of Steam products physically, console-ly. So we have a Steam controller, which again is, I think it's exciting to get a new variation of a controller on the market. Also, the controller leaning into the touchpads like before. I think we're in a really good spot with controllers. I think the basic makeup of a controller has been set in stone at this point, and I don't think that's a bad thing, but I do think evolution is also a good thing. And trying to find new ways to interact with video games. And maybe like this wacky Steam controller with touchpads isn't a one-for-one replacement for the controllers that we know and love, but maybe something else. Something that we can use instead of for different games that we're playing, or maybe people will just legitimately prefer it. But I think evolving in different ways and trying new things is always a great idea. I don't think we should always just be set in our stubborn ways and think that it can't be any better. Of course, everything could always be better. Nothing is perfect. We just have what we like right now and what we're used to. Also, on a side note, I'm excited for whatever it is that Steam is working on in the VR space. Because, again, well, let me finish that thought. But Steam is working on a new VR headset, which is why I said that. But again, VR is not in a great place. I think we're getting better and better and better experiences in VR. And I think if you're a VR fan and you've dived into some good quality headsets and some good quality games, you know, just like I do, what VR has to offer. Playing games like Half-Life Alyx was absolutely revolutionary. And again, that was a Steam game. It's actually really cool because the Half-Life experience back in the day was revolutionary in what it did for the FPS genre. And when Valve wanted to make a VR game and make it a Half-Life game, the idea was to make it a revolutionary VR game. It's so hard now to make a revolutionary first-person shooter. If they ever do make Half-Life 3, I don't know how it's ever going to live up to expectations, how you can even push that genre forward. But VR is still in a space where it needs someone to come along and push it forward, and Half-Life Alyx did that. It actually managed to recreate what it did with Half-Life 2, but in the VR space. It was an incredible experience, and it really opened my eyes to VR and what VR could be. And I think it's still unchallenged even now, like 4 years later since it released. I don't know how long it's been since that game came out, but I can't think of anything else that's even come close to it. Okay, I can. I can think of a lot of games that have come close to it, but still, I think it's the best VR experience you can get right now. So I want to see Valve dive more into tech. I also want to see them dive more into exclusive video games, which I think comes alongside releasing tech. This all really does excite me. So yeah, we have more evidence here of this possibly eventually becoming a thing. And again, you have to like put yourself in the world of having all these products. Like, you have a Steam Deck where you can play games on the go, like locally on the hardware. And a lot of people really do love the Steam Deck, especially the nice model with the OLED screen. But it also does stream games from your PC. You couple that in with a box at home where you can also play games on it locally. You can also use it as a console, or you can also stream games from your PC, or you can throw your Steam Deck games to the box, or you can throw games from the box to your Steam Deck. You know, you have all of these different consoles working around each other, all on the same UI, all on the same account is what I'm looking for. So your games can be played here or there. And then you also have the VR that you can add into that too. I don't know if it's standalone or if it would plug into the home console as well as the PC. But once you have all these Steam Valve products released that all connect and talk to each other and all play together, creating this ecosystem where you can play and enjoy video games, all on the account that we've all had for 20 years at this point, I think it's really exciting. And I think Steam also has its own personality and vibe that these other companies don't have. I think it is prime and set to enter the console market in that way and be a worthy competitor and an actual threat to something like PlayStation. And Xbox, of course, and even Nintendo with the portability of it all. And also, if you're introducing a home and a portable version, you're directly competing with Nintendo's play on the go and dock at home whole scheme in marketing. And I don't think there's any other company that can do it the way that Steam can. I mean, we saw Google try to do Stadia. They tried to do cloud streaming and release a controller and a little doohickey dongle, and it barely lasted. I mean, it didn't last at all, really. I mean, they dragged it out for a year or two, I think, but really it was dead on arrival. You have Amazon, they tried to do the Luna thing, and I think that's still supported, but who do you even know that talks about that? There's probably a good chunk of people that don't even know what I'm referring to right now, but it was essentially Google Stadia. So if companies like Amazon and Google can't really find a way to enter the gaming space, I'm not really sure who can, other than Steam. And I really hope they do it. I really want to see it because I think we're just at that spot where we have the gaming consoles and we have the gaming companies that we have. And I don't know if we're going to ever, and maybe this is naive, but see another company thrive and strive and explode and be ever able to compete with companies like Sony and Nintendo at this point, other than Steam. We're just too far into this multi-billion-dollar media company. You know, the things aren't the way they used to be. Back 30 years ago, you could start a gaming company and hope to be successful. And you think about even back then, a lot of companies tried and did fail. Despite how much success Sega had, even back then, they couldn't keep it alive. Same with a lot of other console companies that tried to come out. 3DO, CDI, I don't need to list them all. They couldn't compete even back then. And now with how solidified it is, and we have companies like Sony spending $200 million on video games, companies like Nintendo that are selling 140 million units of a console, how does anybody come along and compete? Anybody other than someone like Steam. And I really can't think of anything else, and I don't think anything new is going to be able to get off the ground at this point, because honestly, who's going to give it a chance? Sorry, my rambling aside about the way the world is, I am excited for this, and I look forward to seeing how it all turns out, and I hope we do get a Steam machine at home. Which is funny to say, because I know everybody's PC is essentially a Steam machine at home, but I think that home console experience with a controller still has a lot to offer. I still really enjoy sitting down on my couch and gaming on a console with a controller, and I know all of that can be done with a PC, but there is something that's just such a nice, easy ease of access of turning on a game and it just working. And I think that's why even now, things like the Steam Deck and the Switch will succeed over things like the ROG Ally and other consoles that are more expensive but also do more and are capable of more. It's because you can't just plug and play games on those consoles. They take so much fiddling, and you have to mess around with the graphics and the settings to get the most out of it. But games that are optimized for a console will always just be plug and play, and in my opinion, always just a better experience. Having the game update itself for you perfectly for the hardware you're playing on, be constantly and consistently supported on that hardware that you have for the generation that you're owning it, it's just a more pleasant experience for gaming, in my opinion. If you want to min-max your graphics settings, sure, a PC is great, and I do that for some games. I said do. But for the most part, I just want that console gaming experience. And I know a lot of people out there are the same. Let me know what you think down below. Is the Steam Box something that you would want? Or do you think there's no point even trying in today's ecosystem? Also, I'm excited for their new VR. VR is not something I really bother to talk about much because people just aren't that interested. But I really do love VR. And I really do look forward to when it gets to a place where it's not as much of a gimmick, or as... Here's where it needs to be. Short little rant on VR before I end the video. We need the headsets to become more user-friendly. They can't be these giant, junky, heavy, uncomfortable things. I love VR, and even I get sick of VR after half an hour because my face honestly starts to hurt in every VR headset. No VR is comfortable. I think the PlayStation 2 VR is the most uncomfortable headset out there, but even the Oculus, which I love so much, is a very uncomfortable headset. We need the headsets to get as thin as a pair of glasses, I think. Honestly, as lightweight and thin as a pair of glasses, no cables, something that just streams directly from a PC so you can get the full experience on a thin little piece of hardware. Totally immersive in that way. The frame rates and the resolution, I think, are in a really good place now, where we're finally able to avoid a lot of the motion sickness issues we had with the lower resolution and lower frame rates and lower refresh rate headsets. But pushing that even further so that it's a 1-for-1 and people just don't get sick because they can barely even tell the difference. Visuals in these games need a bit of a boost. When you're in a VR game, you can forgive even cartoon visuals, because for some reason, even if it's a cartoon game in VR, it becomes your reality while you're standing in it, and the graphics just don't look that bad. Like, almost anything looks good in VR because your brain accepts that wherever you are is the world that you're in now. It's so funny because if you look at the same gameplay on a screen recording and you're not in VR, VR games always look really bad. Like, graphically, they always look really dated, but as soon as you're in the VR world, your brain instantly forgives the visuals, especially if the game is fun. It makes a lot of sense. It also makes no sense, but even still, I would love the visuals to go up a notch so it feels even more realistic. And I think if you could mix in that awesome gameplay of games like Half-Life Alyx provides with better visuals, although Half-Life Alyx looked fantastic, and a lightweight headset that doesn't bear you down and make your forehead sweat and give you horrible red rings around your eyes when you're done playing it, I think that's where we would finally be in an exciting place with VR, and I would happily sit there for 5 hours in an MMO, meeting people and going on a Ready Player One experience. And I think we are I think we're capable of that now, but I don't think any company wants to invest in it because VR has such a bad reputation and people just aren't that interested. Like, you can make the best thing ever right now, and the player base just isn't there to pick up on it. It's so strange. I think we need to slowly edge there and have it slowly, incrementally get better. Then as soon as we're finally at a point where people jump on board, I think it's going to explode. It will eventually explode. Because as much as people think VR sucks or it is a joke, most people's fantasy of video games, whether they're a kid or now, in the past, the future of video games is always like a Ready Player One experience. And I think people do want that. We just aren't there. And I think as soon as we can get there, it's going to be a next level thing. I think a lot of us don't realize that eventually when we're sitting here playing video games, even if we're sat at our computer, we're going to be putting on a headset or something we're not going to need a screen. And we're going to one day look back at sitting in front of a screen and being able to see your whole room around the 1920, 1080p, or even 4K monitor in front of us will seem so old school. It'll seem so retro that we would sit there in front of a small box screen to play a video game, to get lost in entire worlds that people have built. All we used was this little screen. Honestly, call me crazy now. Watch this video in 10, 15 years and tell me that I'm crazy. That we all sat there in front of a screen this big to dive into these giant open world games, and we had these massive borders of the real world around us. I think eventually we will sit down, we'll put something on, and we'll be in the world. We'll be in the game as we play it. Games like God of War, games like Horizon, games like Last of Us, all the same quality. We might be using a controller. It might not be like a VR experience, but I think eventually we're going to move past monitors. And don't we want that? I mean, really? That sounds cool to me. Let me know your thoughts down below. I rambled a lot, and I'll see you next time. Like, comment, hair flip on that subscribe button. Bye.